Hi everyone. It's really good to be here with you today on Facebook Live. Welcome. I'm glad you're here today. And if you want to, as always, just leave your grade level that you teach or the place that you're coming from, where you teach, all that kind of stuff in the comments, and I will be sure to acknowledge them and say hi and all that good stuff. So I always appreciate you and being able to connect with you on a personal level and being able to just focus on who you are and why you're here and all that good stuff. So thank you again for joining me today. And today's topic is about real world math problems and basically how to bring math alive for our students. How do we help them understand that math isn't just for math time and that it can be used throughout our lives, throughout our day, and throughout our experiences as we learn and grow and just become a classroom community together. So what I'm going to go over today are some ways that I use math outside of our math time. So these are definitely ways that I use math seasonally for some of them within art projects, for some of them just within our classroom routines that we have. And it's ways that we show the value of math and show why it is that we use math in our everyday lives. Our kids come to school, they're with us for 6 hours throughout the day. And it's just a way to show them that math is something we do all day long. Kind of like we do reading all day long. You have a set reading time, but you guys are reading in science, you're reading in social studies, you're reading during math time. Same thing with math. We want to show kids that it's applicable to everything that we do throughout our lives. So I'm going to go over some examples from my classroom over the past couple of years and the ways that I've integrated math either through routines or through special events or through just things that we've done in the classroom. The examples that I have for you are from first, second grade classrooms, mainly second grade, because that's what I've taught over the past couple of years. And I'll do some side steps to take a look at some examples from kindergarten as well. If you're teaching third, fourth, and fifth grade, a lot of these will also apply to you, but it's just a way of sort of starting to pay attention to the work that you're doing within your classroom and being able to take that work to the next level and just sort of infuse some math instruction in it. So the first example I have for you today is our homework area. And so the top part is a little bit hard to see, but I'll explain the graphic and what it means. The idea with this example is basically to turn simple routines into math problems. So you can see on here that this is our homework, and it's the way that I've done homework for the past 3 years in teaching first and second grade. And what it is that students have an opportunity to get stars each night for how much homework they do. I don't monitor homework beyond this little star system, and students give themselves stars. It's totally on an honor system, and it's not really something I monitor. But what we do during class time is add up how many stars we have as a class. So each student can get between 4 and 5 stars. I kind of vary it per year based on how much work I'm giving students, and I vary it throughout the year too. But it's generally about 4 or 5 stars. And I have 24 students in the classroom, so we add up how many stars we get as a whole class. And so you can see that this orange part right here is Monday, and then the yellow part is Tuesday, the green part is Wednesday. And so each day that we have accumulated stars, we figure out what the total is each day. So on the first day, it's pretty easy. We just count them. On the second day, we add the two numbers together, and there should be a sum here as well, but we add the two numbers together and we figure out how much it is. The next day we add it together and we figure out how much it is. And so each day we're adding together and using addition within our homework system to figure out how many stars we have as a whole group. What you see at the very top is our goal, and so it says more than, and the 186 was the previous week, and so we wanted to get more than the previous week. Give me 1 second. I realized I wanted to grab a whiteboard, and I'm going to transition back here. One of the important things to do with any real world math problems that you do as a class, and focusing on how students are doing the math. And so most of the problems that we do, we will do whole class. So especially at the beginning of the year with second graders, but it's a great opportunity to set a foundation for the math that you do throughout the year. So the figures that we have up there, 63 and 61, I will put those up on our whiteboard, and we'll get students to practice adding by place value strategies. So we'll take the ones column, connect them together, and add those two together. And at the beginning of the year, this is really foreign to a lot of students if they haven't had this type of adding in first grade by place value strategies. If they have, it would be slightly familiar, but we start upping the ante a little bit as the year goes on. So obviously we've got 4 ones, and then the way I look at this is it's 60 plus 60, not just 6 plus 6, but 60 plus 60. And for a lot of our kids, that's going to be hard, especially at the beginning of second grade. So we can use just a counting by 10 system. So we know it's the tens place. So often we'll start with 60, and then we'll count 6 more tens. So 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, 140, and I went too far. So it's 120. You need to go out. And so, sorry. So 120, and then we add those together, so it's 124. And that would be the sum of the 2 days for Monday and Tuesday on there. The next day, we would add 124 plus 62. And again, add the ones to ones, in which you got 6, add the tens to tens, and then that 1 comes down as 100. And so we're using place value strategies. We do this type of math from the very first day of school, from the very first week of school. We haven't started this during our math time yet, but doing this early on at the beginning of the school year really sets students up for when we start doing 2 and 3 digit addition and subtraction. It helps them understand the strategy, the place value strategy, and put the numbers in the right place, and how to connect all of the digits that are in place that they need in order to add larger numbers together. So it just really sets a foundation for them. We keep track of it on a little chart like you see here, but then on our just our whiteboard with the kids, we go through and work out the problems all together. Another way that we work on math is, that's homework points, we call them, is with art projects. So special events, and art being one of them. This is an example of an art project that my student teacher did with students, and she did an awesome lesson. She was, beginning of the year student teacher. It was a lesson on using paint and using a cork board or cork in order to do the art of it. And the second day I asked her, let's take this a little bit further. Let's add some math to it. So I distributed to each table one of the papers that you see here. And I wrote at the top, we think we have blank dots. And then each student had to add up or count up how many dots they had on their own picture. And so you can see the numbers up at the top, 78, I think that's 28, 120, 112. And from there, they figured out how many dots they had as a whole table. So you can see in this picture up here, they used place value strategies, which were 70 and 8, 280, and I guess it was 286, not 28, 280 and 6, and then they added them together, the hundreds, the tens, and the ones. This was in September of second grade, well before we had gotten started with adding 2 and 3 digit numbers together and using all those strategies. But because we had built, let me go back to the previous slide, because we had built this system, it was easier, and they were familiar with being able to add this way. And it was a great activity to do with the students. We then took our table, so this was by table they did this with the white poster that I just showed you, and we took our table points and added them together as a whole class, and it was a big number. Here was the process that we used to add together as a whole class. It had to span like 2 whiteboards because there just was not enough room to do it all. But we took a look at table 1, table 3, I don't know what happened to table 2, it's got to be there somewhere. And we took a look at all of the table points we had all together. And I don't even know if this photo has the result of it. But you can tell that we looked at the hundreds and how many hundreds we have, the tens, how many tens we have, the ones and how many ones we have. And this was just all from a simple art project. So it's being able to extend what you're already doing in math and being able to just take it one step further. So think about ways in your classroom, whether it's your homework or your art time or whatever it is, being able to, add a little bit of math into those everyday things that you do in your classroom. Let me give you another example. This is again a fall example, and it's with pumpkin seeds. This 2nd grade class, I decided to have them carve pumpkins, and I know in kindergarten, 1st grade, we do that a lot. In this example, you can see that they had to count the pumpkin seeds, and they grouped them by tens, which is great, and then getting into those higher numbers where they have to count by tens. I don't know if you can see it very well in here, but it's 200, 220, 240. I don't know where 230 went, but maybe they grouped them by 20, it almost looks like. But being able to group them by a larger amount and then sort of skip count by that amount. You'll notice that on the poster over here, I don't know if you can see it, but this particular group had 312 seeds. And so we used the same strategy that we did before with the what's it called? Oh, the art project, in which we, let me go back to that one. In which we added all of the numbers together as a whole class, and we figured out how many pumpkin seeds were in all of our pumpkins. So being able to do this for special events or for different times throughout the year, and just working math into real world situations, or I know they're kind of falsified because they're in your classroom and kids aren't going to go counting pumpkin seeds all the time, but it really works in the math to something that is an activity that students are doing within the classroom. It doesn't make math a separate subject area with separate worksheets and separate things that have to be done in order to learn the skill that you're teaching that day. One of the things I love doing is being able to help students see how to add and subtract larger numbers and looking at different ways to use those numbers within our number system, and being able to build up and take apart numbers and pull them apart and really start understanding all of those place value strategies that they need to use in order to understand how to do math at higher levels. The other example that I have here is just some money examples and how to do some real world problems with money. And a couple of the things that I have done, let's see if I can get this back working, is doing it with fundraisers and then also doing it with a class money system. And with both of those, you want to make sure that students at least know the value of coins. And then we, as the class money system, I would give students coins for being for on task behavior. So it wasn't necessarily for being good or feeling bad or all that kind of stuff, but it was just being on task, being focused, being on task. And I didn't, it's all the plastic money that you get from your math program, so it wasn't real money. And I didn't pay attention to the value, I just handed out coins. We had a class store where I got like dollar store items or Oriental Trading Company items, and then put different prices for all of the items. So like a pencil was 25 cents, or some small toy was 75 cents or whatever it was. But the students had to count their money in order to redeem it for the little trinkets that they would get. And we would open the store every Friday. But it was just a way to get them to think about the system of exchanging money for value of goods. And 2nd grade is a great age to do that with, because they're actually starting to get interested in the concept of going shopping for something and spending money for something. My 4 and my 6-year-old aren't quite, they're kind of there, they want stuff, but they don't really get the idea of working for money yet. So the 2nd graders really enjoyed doing all of that. And then I mentioned fundraisers as part of it. Whether or not you have some sort of coin drive at school or some sort of fundraiser, you can use it two different ways. One in collecting the coins, and you can add and count them to figure out how much you get. And so if the fundraiser is over a period of days, you keep track of that over a period of days and then add it together each day. And so you can kind of keep a running total of how much your class has raised for a certain fundraiser. And depending on the fundraiser, using the total amount that you collect can also be a math problem. My son's school, they raised money for Heifer International, and the kids were able to decide how much of the money they wanted to spend on each of the animals or livestock that they were buying for people in other countries. So the class had raised somewhere around $600, and they had to go back and choose how many goats they wanted, how many rabbits they wanted, how many hens they wanted, and all that kind of stuff. And each animal group had a different value based on, the size of the animals, probably it. But the students had to go through and figure out, I want 3 sets of chickens and 1 cow, or, 5 goats and a set of rabbits, or those type of things. So it's definitely a tool to be able to use on the back end of everything too. And the other one that I forgot to put up there, so I'll transition really quickly, is just shopping. Kids get to a point where they're interested in going shopping with parents, with family. And so now that we have iPhones and it's so easy to take a photograph of something out in a store, you can go shopping and take a photograph of things that you buy for Thanksgiving, or maybe different toys that different age groups might like. So if they're buying toys for a younger brother or sister, or it could even be chocolate at Valentine's Day, or, there's so many different possibilities. If you take photographs of the item with a price next to it, and then have students, kind of like the fundraising idea, where you give them a dollar amount that they can spend on something, and then challenge them either in partners or as individuals, challenge them to figure out what it is that they want to buy and purchase, and how much change they have left over. You ever go to a grocery store, or, we don't pay in cash much anymore because we always pay with cards these days, but, you go to the ice cream man and you hand them money. You want the kids to make sure that they get the right change back. So that's another one too that's very good to use with a shopping experience there. Alrighty, so basically the ways that I was talking about using real world math problems, figure out holidays, special events, those type of things are great for using real world math problems. Creating a money system within your classroom, however that can be organized. I can point you to a few blog posts that I have on either one of those. And then the last one was working it into just normal routines throughout the day. If you teach at a school where you have to count how many kids have lunch. In a kindergarten or first grade classroom, a great thing to do is figuring out how many kids brought their lunch and how many kids need hot lunch, and turning that into a math problem. And you can do that on a daily basis. It especially works really well if a student is absent and you have to subtract from the total number of kids that you have within your classroom. But figuring out how to just do math throughout the day, and in those ways that extend it beyond what you're already doing during your math time. So just taking it one step further, making it a little bit more interesting, making it a little bit more of a real world scenario for your students. Because in our adult life, most of us don't go to a math class every day and learn a certain math concept. We just use it throughout the day because we need to. We need to get something done. We need to figure out how certain numbers are put together or break them apart. And we use math because it comes up throughout the day. So just be intentional about getting math to come up for your kids. I know it's not going to come up for you as the teacher, but you have to be intentional about making math come up for your kids and helping them, see the math within the real world situations that they're going to. As I mentioned before, let me see if I can see comments. I'm going to try and reload the page and see if there's anything here, because I haven't really paid attention to them. Yeah, there's just a very good foundation for third grade. Thank you, Paloma. And I agree. The stuff that I've tried to do in second grade is just all prep work for just the higher level math that they run into, breaking apart numbers, putting them together, and making them make sense so that students can work with those bigger numbers later on. So yeah, definitely, I agree. I'll put in a couple of blog posts in the links below so that you can find them. I know that at least 2 or 3 of these have related blog posts that go along with it. And it's just about finding a way to bring math into your classroom that isn't just math time. Extend it beyond just the lesson that you're teaching that day. So just a challenge for you to do that this year and figure out how to make it more meaningful for the students and have them hold on to what you're working on and what you want them, the foundation that you want them to have. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here with me, and just keep up the good work. I know it's summertime and not many of you are really focused on school yet unless you're back into school already. So go and enjoy the sunshine and all that good stuff as well.